Disney have acquired the rights to a lot of things that I enjoyed during my ever more turgid lifespan. You can understand the money-spinning opportunities of The Muppets, Star Wars, and Marvel Comics, even if the Disneyfied results can sometimes leave a little to be desired. Here's a weird one though, and one I didn't know about. Doug. Now, Doug is not something I enjoyed because, well, I was a bit old for it when it came out. It was boring, it wasn't funny, and it didn't have any fighting in it. But it was something that Disney did acquire to show on their ABC channel that had previously been on rival Nickelodeon. Then they ran it for 3 series and dropped it. And, well, no one's heard of Doug since. I can't see Doug appearing in the MCU, I'll be honest. So who is Doug? And why does this here Game Boy game exist? A good question. Well, it was an animated sitcom that focused on the adolescent life struggles of its title character, one Doug Funnie. It was originally envisaged as a book series, but after creator Jim Jenkins struggled to find a publisher, Nickelodeon purchased the rights and installed Jenkins as the executive producer for the show. The storyline was inspired by Jenkins' own life experiences growing up in Richmond, Virginia, and addresses various topics such as self-esteem, playground gossiping, bullying, and Doug's bashful crushing over his classmate Patty Mayonnaise. I can't help but think that Doug might have had more luck with Patty Mayonnaise if the top half of his body didn't resemble a 55-year-old man. What's going on with his bloody hair and the sleeveless James Pringle jumper, dude? You're supposed to be in the radical 90s. The original run was 4 series on Nickelodeon and then a further 3 series after that Disney acquisition that was shown on ABC. Doug was launched on the same day as 2 other pan-generational Nickelodeon shows on August the 11th, 1991, those being Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats, but wasn't as initially popular as either of those. But it soon grew its fan base. It garnered enough commercial success that after its 9-year TV run across ABC and Nickelodeon, that it got its own animated flick, that being Doug's first movie. However, there wasn't a Doug's second movie. So yes. As far as I can tell, this Game Boy Color title is the only video game based on the show. It was released by Ubisoft's arm New Kid Co, who I'm only too well aware of thanks to games like Elmo and Grouchland, Muppets Pinball Mayhem, and the handheld 20th anniversary ET titles, all that I've covered on my channel. Do you want to have a look at those? Go on. Imagine Engine were the development teams charged with making this title, and they were responsible for a string of kid-friendly games like Puss in Boots, Monster High, and Alvin and the Chipmunks, but I'm most familiar with them thanks to them also doing the DS title Cesar Millan's Dog Whisperer. Doug must have been whispering Cesar Millan's instructions into his own dog Porkchop, as the rather vacant-looking hound follows the follically challenged preteen in this late 2000 overhead-viewed adventure. Doug's big game takes the whimsical storylines of the bland hero from the small screen to the even smaller screen, that being the one on your Game Boy Color. In the game, Doug traverses 20 locations trying to find his crush, Patty Mayonnaise. So, stalking, basically. It's a preteen stalk 'em up. But don't worry, it's not as nefarious as it sounds. There's no mini-game where Doug rifles through her bins or it spies on her through the window whilst making himself a hand shandy. Don't worry about that. The first thing you'll notice about the game is that it kind of replicates the look of the show fairly well in terms of the characters. Sure, some of the locations, like this rather eye-searing arcade, aren't brilliant, but the characters themselves are replicated fairly well. Doug is a weird show in that, other than the main protagonist, everyone else has very strange skin tones, and this lends itself very well to the Game Boy Color's rather limited colour palette. The second thing that you'll notice is that despite this being called Doug's Big Game, it's not much of a game, and it isn't very big. All of the 20 locations in Doug's hometown of Bluffington range from one screen to a couple of larger scrolling environments that can be traversed fairly swiftly. Patty, you'd think, should be fairly easy to locate in this very, very small town, but she still is. Along the way, you'll encounter the show's supporting cast like Judy, Skeeter, Chalky and BB, who will either hinder you or assist you in your quest to get that Patty tail on lockdown. The game's coders seem aware that the game is ironically quite small, and they'll randomise the locations that you'll find folk in and the quests that you will be given each time that you play it. A good idea in terms of replayability, but a bit of a desperate one. The random nature of the quest will see a lot of the game's characters loafing about, but only 2 or 3 characters will actually be useful to you at a particular time. So they'll just talk to you about new ice cream flavours or a new movie that's being filmed in the local neighbourhood. Some will even show concern about how Doug looks worried, and he'll rudely tell him that he's busy and, well, not so many words, he basically tells him to F off. What a dickhead. The quests themselves are fairly similar and fairly short. An example, one of the characters will offer you a new ice cream in the local parlour that makes your breath stink, which obviously you don't want to take to Patty if you're trying to get a bit of tongue hockey with her. So you'll have to locate someone who will then tell you where someone else is who will be able to give you some gum. And that's it. That's the end of the quest. To get the information, though, you'll have to defeat them in Doug's imagined reality, where he is a superhero called Quail Man. This will take you to a strange shoot-'em-up boss fight, where you'll have to take down your opponent. You'll get infinite tries at it, but your speed in doing so is graded by your dog, which then goes to a collector's score that will give you a good or bad ending with Patty. Yes, that was one of the weirdest paragraphs that I've ever written. The shoot-'em-up sections are just awful. Quail Man is fast and loose to control and will dart about so fast that the screen sometimes has trouble keeping up. This usually results in you slamming into a previously unseen off-screen bolt from your enemy. You only get 3 hits and then you have to start it again. It's not great. The main part of the game fares little better. You spend most of the playtime traipsing around the same locations, forlornly trying to find a character that will trigger the next quest, and then the next person in that adventure chain. It feels very artificially inflated, this game. The music also is all kinds of terrible. I just turned down the sound after a bit. Just awful. It's an absolute slog of a game, a hollow, dull fetch quest that just involves you finding people, most of whom are of no use to you, and just drone on inanely about whatever their lives are. There's no puzzles, there's no joy to this, which, strangely enough, despite it being a game about an adolescent, is a pretty good video game allegory for life as a middle-aged man. No 2000-era magazine reviews of Doug's big game exist from what I could find. So, I don't want to keep you. Don't play Doug's big game. No matter how bored you get, it's awful. Instead, let's look forward to playing a different game about a different dork, one that's a little bit older and a lot more British. Yes, let's have a look at the Nintendo DS game of Mr. Bean. Can you believe that? A Mr. Bean game. Well, like, subscribe. Okay, thanks, bye.